What a bullet! Scott Arfield! He's been threatening that recently, and all the Burnley players run to the Darwin end.
Burnley win the next ball. It's Rory now. On the outside, decent.
Barnes! He's got it! Ashley Barnes with it! What a cross from Rory! And there was Ashley Barnes! And Burnley leading the derby.
Knocks it quickly, finds Benson in space at the byline. Can Burnley get a goal here? Back for Brownell, saved by the keeper.
Burnley won it to the end. That is magnificent. They deserve that.
On it by Paul Patella, on for a hat-trick.
He's got it. Hat-trick for Nathan Teller. Oh, he's on fire at the minute. 3-0 Burnley. It's Nathan Teller's day. And Burnley are 3 up here. Fantastic derby.
Here's Benson, and he go on the outside, comes inside, have a shot.
Oh, what a goal. Manuel Benson once more. That is top class. Burnley have done it. Fantastic. Clarets deserve the championship title. They've been the best side throughout the campaign. Burnley have won the second tier. What a fantastic achievement. The players have been magnificent.
Yes, hello everybody. Welcome along to the latest episode of the Turfcast podcast pre-game show with me, Joe Redmond, ahead of this weekend's game against West Ham United at Turf Moor, Saturday, 3 o'clock. Unfortunately, everybody, the international break is over. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed not having any anxiety about Burnley. But as you can see, I'm joined by West Ham fan Will, and he's from the We Are West Ham YouTube channel. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm all right, Joe. Yeah, it's good to be on again. I think you're one of the only few people on the planet who are saying who gutted the international break is over. That did make me laugh, I must admit. Most people desperate for club football to return. You and a small handful of others from up there at Turf Moor just head in hand so you go watch your team.
It's not been great, mate. Like I said, I've enjoyed not having to worry about Burnley. But before we get into it, just a reminder that for the 23-24 season, the Turfcast podcast pre-game show is sponsored by Green King Sport, where football is more than a game. Green King Sport venues are showing every single televised Burnley fixture over the course of the season. So instead of turning to the internet for a dodgy stream, get your mates together and get down to your local Green King pub and get closer to the action. This season, Green King have launched the Green King Sport Instagram page, which will be home to fan content, deals and competitions throughout the season. They've already given away Champions League final tickets and signed shirts, so you don't want to miss out. Drop them a follow on Instagram. You won't just be helping Green King, you'll be helping Turfcast as well, so please go ahead and do that. Will, talk to me about your season so far then. Talk to me about West Ham, because I'm just looking at the Premier League table, and I'm not surprised is the wrong word because you're a good side, but with all the noise surrounding West Ham, I didn't think you'd be as high up as ninth. Like, there's been a lot of noise about Brighton and how great Brighton are, and you're only 2 points behind them. You're doing all right, aren't you?
Joe, honestly, such is the existence of being a West Ham fan right there, where you seem, all you do all the time is have to persuade people, including most of the time our own fans, that we're actually quite good. We're top of our Europa League group. We're in Europe for the third season running, as it is anyway, for the first time in our history, I think. We're top of our Europa League group. We've just beaten Arsenal in the only game we've played in the Carabao Cup, so it can't get any better on that front. And we're ninth in the Premier League, which, even if you don't know, as I wouldn't expect fans of your podcast to know, watch which teams we've played so far, you'd still say, ninth is all right. When you consider that we've played 5 of the current top 7 already, we'll beat Brighton away, and we haven't beaten Brighton for more than a decade. We've played Man City and Liverpool and Villa. All right, Chelsea aren't the force they once were, but we've played them as well, and Newcastle, and we're still ninth. Honestly, mate, I'm the only enjoyment have sucked out of supporting West Ham at the moment. My enjoyment is being sucked out by our own fans and constantly like demanding David Moyes gets sacked, and I'm like, I can't even sort of compute it anymore. So what I would say is, when you say all the noise around West Ham, what I think you mean is all the tweets about West Ham.
Yeah.
So, but normal people, normal match-going fans, people like my dad and people of his age who don't have Twitter, they've got a bit more normal brains in their head and know it's actually quite good.
Yeah, no, look, outside looking in, it does look quite good. Last few results, though, in the league haven't been the best. Obviously, you beat Forest last time out, probably expected to beat them, but lost at Brentford, lost at home to Everton, which is probably one that raised a few eyebrows. I remember seeing that one and thinking, for God's sake, thank you for that, West Ham. And then, obviously, losing away at Villa, who are a good side, to be fair. A 2-2 draw at home to Newcastle, which is a good result. And then before that, it was a 2-0 win against Sheffield United. So last few games, a few defeats in there.
Mate, honestly, the Everton one's the one. The Everton one is the turd in the punch bowl there. Like,
yeah.
Other than that, David Moyes, he did. Look, I'm very pro David Moyes anyway, but I will criticise him when he warrants it. And he had a right little weird spell then. He made a big wrong decision. It all stemmed from, we played Olympiacos away and he started a really, really weak team. And we were awful. I went all the way to Greece and it was lucky Athens is such a lovely city because I'd have been fuming otherwise because it was insulting to the 1,600 fans who paid a lot of money and took a lot of time out of their diaries to go out there. And then that just sort of put pressure on him. We had that Everton game at home in the Prem the following weekend, the weekend afterwards. So rather than going to Olympiacos, which would have all but cemented our place at the top of that Europa League group, which cuts you out the round of 32. If you win your group, you go straight to the last 16. He fielded a really weakened team. We lost there. And then the Everton game came around. There was massive pressure on it. We played rubbish again. And it was all sort of a stinker of his own making. Fortunately, we then played Arsenal and bounced back with that victory over them in the League Cup. And then the 5-goal thriller against Forest has sort of like calmed it all down a bit. But yeah, it was a mess of his own making. But other than the Everton game, mate, I say if we should have won that. If we'd have won that, I think we'd have been 8th, knocking on the door of 7th, maybe. And so, yeah, other than the Everton game, mate, if you look at the season on a whole, we're still doing really well.
Yeah, I agree. And by the way, if you'd have won that Everton game, we won't be bottom now. So I'm going to put the entire blame on you and West Ham. But no, I do want to talk to you as well about injuries and stuff because there's been a lot of noise surrounding injuries at West Ham. I've seen a lot of tweets, got quite a few injuries. Antonio out for quite a while, apparently. Bowen might play this weekend, but might not. Sorry, you'll know more than me. Who's out? Who's in?
Yeah, so obviously we spoke just about 24 hours ago on our channel, and yeah, at that stage we know slightly more. It's a slightly better prognosis. I mean, you speak to some West Ham fans, me included, to be honest. Mikel Antonio being out for 3 months would be considered a positive thing rather than a negative. But no, I as far as I understand it, Jared Bowens was only ever. I don't think it was ever going to be as serious as people wanted to make out. Even Gareth Southgate said it's not too bad, but wasn't worth risking him for the Macedonia game. He's basically a 50-50 for Saturday, but if he doesn't make that, he'll definitely be back for our next game. So no real concern about that. And he's been playing really well up front. He started up front against Arsenal and Forest and was really good, and we offered more when he was playing. Antonio, he is good to have off the bench, and I think that's as much as his role should be at West Ham. It's almost not his fault that as a club we haven't been able to source an adequate replacement for him in so long. But yeah, I think he's more of a risk for the weekend. But if I'm honest, if Bowen's fit, and he would have played up front anyway. So it's the Bowen thing is more of a starting 11 effector. But if Antonio's not available, all it means is we'll just have no reinforcements to come off the bench other than the woeful Danny Ings or Divine Mabama, who's still a little bit rough and ready at 18 and unproven.
Yeah, obviously that leads me on nicely to my next question. I did try and ask you about Danny Ings yesterday, but you said you talked about it too much on your own podcast that you don't want to bore your listeners with it anymore, which is fair enough. I get that. But up until about 2 weeks ago, because obviously I don't follow that many West Ham accounts. I think there's you, and a couple of others.
Yeah.
I started seeing a few tweets like whinging and people putting comments up, sort of like saying like not as harsh as get out of our club, but along them lines, like don't really want him here anymore. Obviously I don't watch him play anymore, but when he was here, he was a very good forward. Deservedly went on to a club like Liverpool. If it wasn't for injuries, he'd probably have had an even better career than what he has. Did well at Southampton.
Yeah.
Loved a goal against us. Celebrated them a lot, which I think was more of a dig at Dyche rather than us. So it'll be interesting if he does play and he scores this weekend, what his reaction will be. But what's all this noise and all this negativity, this negative noise surrounding Danny Ings? Like, what's gone wrong with Danny Ings and down at West Ham?
Danny Ings should never pull on a West Ham shirt again. And there's a couple of reasons for as with every football shout, really, there's always more nuance than just one black or white shout either way.
Yeah.
He shouldn't play for our football club again because he doesn't fit. He was a bad signing, right? He doesn't fit in David Moyes' style. David Moyes' style of play requires a very specific type of centre forward. That's someone who is quick and athletic and can run channels and run in behind. Ultimately, being a striker under David Moyes isn't a super glamorous role, right? But there's not a huge goal scoring pressure on you because the way Moyes plays, our attacking midfield players shoulder a lot of the goal scoring burden. Bowen plays on the wing, Paqueta comes up with a few, Benrahma should be doing that, but he's not. And Mohamed Kudus will hopefully, and it looks like he's going to be one of them too. So if you score 10 goals for West Ham in the league as a striker and do enough of the ugly work to bring other players in, you're going to be fine under David Moyes. Fans will love you. Danny Ings was never that sort of player, so I don't know why we signed him in the first place. So he was already sort of up against a big barrier or a big hurdle that he had to overcome. But the 125 grand a week wage that we're giving him, making him our third highest earner, mate, he couldn't be further away from our third highest contributor. He looks overweight now. He just doesn't look interested. He looks like he's hiding from the ball, and he offers nothing. But so it's one of those situations where I almost feel it's of West Ham's making. Really, the reports are, suggestions are that David Moyes didn't want him, and he was a David Sullivan signing, and it was like, look, you need a striker, so I've gone out and got you one, based on he was good at Southampton. No tactical analysis of it at all because Southampton he was good at Southampton. He wasn't very good at Aston Villa. And then West Ham signed him. And I think I sort of feel sorry for him in a way, but also now I'm like, well, look, I love David Moyes, but our podcast this week, when it looked like the injury crisis up front might be a little bit worse than it probably is going to be. I was like, well, if David Moyes gives Danny Ings a single minute, he's signing his own exit papers. I don't want him to leave at all. Loads of our fans do. Moisey, I mean. So it just doesn't work. And all of this, he's the third highest contributor and all that stuff, and pressure from the board to play him. Well, ignore it. Give Divine Mabama a chance. He's unproven. I'm not saying he'll be loads better, but at least he's got room to grow. Ings is on the decline. He clearly doesn't want to be there for anything other than the enormous money. Why we're paying him 125 grand a week, I don't know. And it's a bad now where I think it's insulting to West Ham fans who pay their hard-earned money to go and watch the club, home and away, if they turn up and Danny Ings is playing up front, because it's that bad, mate. And I'm not one for hyperbole and going over the top. Honestly, I'm not. But in this situation, it's that bad, and he shouldn't play for West Ham again. And he should go in January if we can get rid of him.
Yeah, interesting. You might struggle on the 125 grand a week contract. I'm not sure who else will pay that, but that's interesting. I'm going to say it doesn't sound like him hiding from the ball, but there was a very specific incident that a lot of Burnley fans will remember when we got a penalty against Leicester in, 2014, something like that. And if we'd have won that match, we'd have probably stayed up. He refused to take the penalty. He gave it to Matty Taylor, who then went to miss the penalty. I say refused, that's harsh. I think he just gave it to Matt Taylor rather than wanting to take it. We lost that match and then went down. Leicester won the league season after. So we've all decided if Ings had took that penalty and scored it, we'd have won the Premier League the year after. But it don't sound like him, apart from that one incident, like hiding from the ball and hiding from play. He never really did that with Burnley. But like I said, I completely forgot he was at Villa. You mentioned Villa there as well. I completely forgot about that. So that shows that how much of an effect he had there, I suppose.
I think his confidence is shot, mate. I know you want to move on.
Yeah.
I think his confidence is shot, and I think that is a symptom of him being bought into a club and to a style of play which was never going to suit him. So you keep trying to stuff a square peg in a round hole, then you're going to erode a player's confidence and wear away. And we've seen that with Sebastian Haller, Gianluca Scamacca, plenty of strikers before that. Like it's so blindly obvious to West Ham fans what sort of a striker David Moyes needs, and that's a Marko Arnautovic, Mikel Antonio type. And Bowen's slotting him well because he's physical, strong, and quick. It's just like when we don't sign that, it's like, well, what are you doing? That's a waste of time and money. Which again, for the God knows how many years in a row, that's what Danny Ings, just like so many strikers before him, is proving to be.
Fair enough. Obviously, he's not the only ex-Clarets at West Ham. You've got Maxwell Cornet, a player that's missed quite a lot, because obviously Ings left a long time ago now, so I think a lot of people are over it. But Cornet left, obviously, the season we went down. A lot of Burnley fans loved him in that season. Bit of a debate among some Burnley fans. Some were saying he were overrated, some still do. But I think a lot of us agreed that within that team, he was probably the only one that could make things happen. But then went to West Ham. Obviously struggled with injuries. He struggled with injuries at us. He's had even worse injuries with you guys. How's Cornet doing then at West Ham? I won't say a fan favourite because he's probably not played enough, but what do your fans think of him?
To be honest, Joe, even as I was saying then just about our attacking players, like the attacking midfield players, I basically forget him. And I think most West Ham fans do. And to be honest, there's that little bit of a rumbling, isn't there, that Burnley knew, because he had a really weird injury. It was like this long,
very specific,
like calf, really rare calf condition or something like that. So there was a few murmurings that Burnley already knew about that when they carted him off to West Ham and took the money. Whether or not that's sort of been proven or not, I don't really know. But it just felt he was really unlucky with that, and so that kept him out for a while. Like we had Pablo Fornals, who's been great for years in that position, but now his time is up and he'll leave at the end of the season. He hasn't signed a new contract. He's not sort of part of the Moyes' plans anymore. He's tried to make it work with Saïd Benrahma, who I'm not having at all. And if I'm quite honest, now seems like the time, unless there's something going on that fans aren't aware of, where I know we signed Mohamed Kudus, but I would like to see Cornet getting more game time than he is and getting a bit of a chance to show what he was about at Burnley, because I was really excited when we signed him. I thought, that's brilliant. Like, it was nice for us to be a club, to be honest, poaching the good players from the teams that go down, rather than being the team going down, watching all our good players go to Premier League teams. And I was like, that's a really good, promising signing. And he's shown flashes, but I can't really work it out. Moyes doesn't seem to fancy him that much. And I think he would be an excellent option. I would have no problem having Bowen as our striker, Paqueta as number 10, and then Mohamed Kudus and Cornet as the other two. Cornet seems to work well on the left. So I don't know, really. I think fans don't. I think they ultimately want to see him succeed at West Ham, but haven't seen anywhere near enough of him to have an opinion one way or the other. But I think I speak for certainly myself, but a few more Hammers fans who go, now seems like a time where if he's going to get a shot, it will be between now and the end of the season. And I hope he does. And I think most West Ham fans hope he does well.
Yeah, there's been a lot of noise surrounding Cornet on the Burnley Twitter this week. I've tried to stay out of it because, he could score the goal against us this weekend, So a lot of fans do miss him. A lot of fans want him back. I'd take him back in a heartbeat. I really, really would. Ings probably would at the minute with our striker situation. We're not on 125 grand a week. But But yeah, obviously not the greatest to start for Burnley, but I do like to ask opposition fans what they think of Burnley. Not the greatest start for Burnley, but obviously we've been through a bit of a change in the last 18 months where we've completely changed the style and ethos of the football club. We've tried to go into a different direction in terms of how we play and how people view us. What are your thoughts on what Burnley are trying to do and the unfortunate start to the season?
Well, mate, as you know, I love Burnley. I really have got a soft spot for Burnley. Me and my dad have developed a weird tradition over the past, I don't know, sort of 5, 6, 7 years, probably a little bit longer than that, probably the last decade or whatever, of always making sure that, we do a reasonable amount of away games in a season, but always making sure we do Burnley. We've had you in a couple of times. We've gone up on grim, horrible Tuesdays. So I love the stadium. I love all your fans, anyone of yourself included, of course, anyone I've ever interacted with either in person or on these sort of things or just on social media. The people are nice. The club's nice. They're a proper football club. It's a proper football ground. It's a good atmosphere. There always seems to be good games. We've got some good results and we've lost some as well. They always seem to be reasonably entertaining. And I think they add loads to the Premier League. And I don't. It's a bit lazy trope, I think, to sort of say that Burnley under Dyche with this dinosaur style football team. You're obviously a bit more efficient and played a lower block and stuff, but it was hardly Tony Pulis, Sam Allardyce stuff, as far as I thought. And whilst I think it's sort of flavour of the month or flavour of the day, really, isn't it, for football club owners to be determined to change the way their football club play. And obviously last season you were excellent in the Championship. Vincent Kompany learned at the school of Pep Guardiola, so seems to be a good sort of bloke, and I reckon he'll probably go far in management.
Yeah, I agree.
Whether or not, I don't know. I just think perhaps it's a little bit naive to think you can come up to the Premier League from the Championship, especially with the golfing class a lot of the time these days, and play an expensive sort of, passing brand of football and stay up. That sounds a bit bleak, but I'm not saying you have to be completely route one. But I just think when you're sort of re-establishing yourself again, when you come up from the Championship, historically, and like the stats will tell you, that the teams who do better and stay in the league, it is a bit uglier, it is a bit grittier. There's a reason that after every game against a team who try and play football, Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp come out and heap praise on the managers. It's because they've stuffed them 6-0. And that's why they come out and go, all the time wasting and direct footballs into the box. They always moan about it and try and make out like the teams that do that are this like bad for football, bad for the Premier League. It's like, well, actually, it's because they hate it's more of a leveler when you play teams like that. And they hate playing against sides like that because it's harder to get points off them. So I admire, in a way, the philosophy. I also think it's wise to temper it slightly when you come back in the Premier League if you want to stick around. I'm not saying pendulum from 1970s Brazil when you're in the Championship to Sam Allardyce Bolton when you're in the Prem, but it feels a little bit naive maybe from Kompany not adjusting slightly or trying to add a little bit more, all right, look, we're in the Prem now, we're not going to be better at most of these teams than actually playing football,
Yeah, no, I think a few Burnley fans agree with that now at the minute. I think, we all came up with this expectation because we absolutely bossed the Championship. We finished 21 points above Luton last season, and now Luton are above us, despite we went and spent over 100 million quid as well. So I think a few people would agree with that. We did change slightly against Arsenal, which surprised a few of us who went more into not a low block as such, but more into that sort of style.
We scored,
I'm not sure. Well, we scored. We still got comfortably beaten. We were level for all of 3 minutes. It were a brilliant 3 minutes, though, mate. It was fantastic. But so whether we'll see him continue that change against you guys and try and be a little bit more assured at the back than just completely kamikaze, then we'll see.
Thing is, mate,
sorry, go on, mate. I'll let you go.
Loads of teams, not just Burnley, like we'll go to Arsenal and play low block, and we're going to try and finish 6th or 7th this season. Like even the so-called, and you'll excuse me for this, but the so-called bigger clubs or the teams who are likely to finish further up the league than you will adapt, won't they, for certain games? And I just think the stage Burnley out, I don't think it's like a crime against football for you to adapt in more games than perhaps we would, because, so speaking frankly, it's not a jibe, we've got better players than you, haven't we? So I don't think it's a bad thing for your manager to adapt. Anyway, sorry, crack on.
No, yeah. Hopefully, we see more of an adaptation going forward, because I don't want him to completely change his philosophy. Craig Bellamy went on the Overlap recently and said, "Why would we change?" And I agree with that. We shouldn't change the philosophy, but we should adapt and make us harder to beat. Because I think at the minute we are too easy to beat. Simon Jordan said on TalkSport recently that we are the easiest team to beat in the league. A few Burnley fans had a bit of a whinge about it, but he was spot on. We are the easiest team to beat in the league. We're bottom for a reason. Luton and Sheffield United have since decided to show themselves up a little bit. Yes, Sheffield United got beat 8-0 off Newcastle, but since then they've been quite difficult to beat, and hopefully we don't find that out too much next week when we play them. Going into the actual game itself then, what sort of game are you expecting? How are you expecting West Ham to set up and Burnley to set up?
Tricky one. Obviously, it all depends on the injuries like we've spoken about already. Where with players coming back from international duty, it's always tough, isn't it? You never know what sort of condition they come back. You never know what sort of condition they come back in. Mohamed Kudus travelled to Ghana. Reports suggest that he had a previous back injury. He missed a training session for them and played their most recent game. I'm not sure in what nick he's going to be in. Moyes will stick with his 4-2-3-1, I think, unless we're completely decimated up front. I think it's almost certain that he's not going to. I mean, we can switch to 5 at the back with Emerson and Soufal as wing backs, and then Aguerd, Zuma and Mavropanos as our centre halves probably, or Ogbonna maybe. But I'd be stunned if we don't play 4-2-3-1 like we usually do. It'll be Ward-Prowse and Souček at the base of that. You might have Edson Alvarez in there as well, and then just have sort of more of a 3 in midfield, deep line, and then 3 attack. I think it all just depends on what players we've got available to us. But it'll basically 4 defenders, 5 in midfield, with 2 or 3 of them being slightly more attacking, depending who we've got, and then 1 striker. I hope that's Bowen. If it's Bowen, I fancy us, and then with Paqueta behind him, Souček, Alvarez, Ward-Prowse with the set pieces, I would fancy us, and then that will be it. But it'll just be whoever Moyes got available.
Yeah, I know PTSD stands for post-traumatic stress disorder, but I think I've just been given PTSD, pre-traumatic stress disorder. You mentioning Ward-Prowse's set pieces there and corner kicks. I'm not looking forward to that at all. We can't clear a ball. But Ekdal coming back might help us with that. Fingers crossed it does, but we'll see. Predictions then, you said if you have certain players back, you fancy you. To be honest, if Ward-Prowse can swing in some good corners, I think you'll probably be okay, to be honest. Ekdal, like I said, might change it. But what's your prediction for this game, mate?
Yeah, listen, mate, I think you made a good point on our podcast yesterday that we're still West Ham and we can still have an off day every now and then. That's exactly what happened against Everton a few weeks ago. If we play to our capabilities, we beat you 2-0, something like that. You know, I wouldn't be surprised to see us put 3 past you if we've got everyone fit. I don't think it'll be quite as nice and easy as that. I fancy it'll be a bit of a gritty, ugly sort of game with few players sort of playing when perhaps they shouldn't be, and a couple of injuries and not everything clicking. So I obviously hope we edge it, and I think we will. So I'm going to go 2-1 to West Ham, but not a pretty spectacle.
No, fair enough. I don't think many Burnley fans will disagree with that. I think I predicted 2-0 on your show yesterday. I'll stick with that. I know Ekdal coming back should help us, and we have had a lot of injuries recently. And it'd be interesting to see if how Lyle is at the minute, whether Lyle can come back. Obviously, as I've said every time I've mentioned it, the priority that he gets better. But if he's back, it will help us. So there is that. So it'd be interesting to see what Kompany says in his press conference tomorrow, because we're recording this on Thursday. You might be listening. On Wednesday. You might be listening to it on Thursday. The Kompany press conference is on Thursday as well. So fingers crossed we have more information there. But that's pretty much it from me, mate. Is anything you want to add? I'll tell you what. Just let everyone know where they can find your podcast and your channel and stuff like that before we do wrap it up.
Yeah, cool. It's We Are West Ham. So we're at @WeAre_West Ham on Twitter. But yeah, if you go to the YouTube channel, our video with Joe yesterday is already up. So just search We Are West Ham on YouTube. We're a podcast first and foremost. So if you do fancy having a listen in, the one with Joe will be out as a separate episode today, I think. So by the time you listen to this, it'll definitely be up. So just again, search We Are West Ham on any of your platforms, and it's me, Will Pugh, and James Jones. We'll be able to get us there. And yeah, one you said, would I like to add anything? I love Burnley. I really hope you stay out. I love going there. It's a great ground, great people. So yeah, I do hope you stay out.
Thank you, mate. It's always refreshing to hear people say that, because you don't get a lot of that as a Burnley fan. I were even on a show with a Luton fan the other day, like survival rivals and a Sheffield United fan, and they were giving it me both angles. I'm like, what issue have Luton got with us, for God's sake? So it is refreshing to hear that, mate. But yeah, hope you do well for the season. Fingers crossed you achieve everything you want to achieve. Maybe top half finish in a decent run in the Europa League will be fantastic for West Ham. Yeah, that'll be massive, won't it? That will be massive. But thanks for coming on, mate. It's been a pleasure. Good luck for the rest of the season, just after Saturday, of course.